But typically, they either go to a foster home or they go to a family member.
Yeah.
Is that Wynwood following up, or is it
Wynwood does that.
Yeah. But there are probably ways you could volunteer if you wanted to on campus once we get past COVID. So, sure. It is. Well, that's something we can mention to them. Let's want to move on to our speaker today. We have the privilege of having a great young gentleman who is a author, a speaker, a employee of the River Dogs, and just a great guy. I think you're going to love him. Chris Singleton. Chris, come on up.
Thank you. And I know we usually end at 1:30, right? So I gotta work quick. I do. I gotta work quick. No, I didn't. I didn't prepare anything. I'm gonna be honest. I walked in. I think somebody said, "What are you speaking about?" I said, "You know what? I'll figure that out once I get up there." But unlike a lot of the speakers that do this, I actually do this as a profession, right? I just spoke to Microsoft, one of Microsoft's teams of 900 this past Friday. And usually when I speak, it's about unity. I spoke to some pretty cool sports teams. I got to speak to the Texans recently. I don't want to shout that one out. They're not having the best season this year, so I don't say that's because of me. But I did speak to Coastal Carolina's football team, and they're having a good year, so I'll share that one. But yeah, when I go in and I speak to these teams, a lot of times they'll have their mission, right? Find your why. And we see that all the time, whether it's in business, whether in sports. They say find your why, and for me, I don't believe that's true. I believe everybody wants to buy their mom a house, right? They want to make it big. They want to make the world a better place. And so when I speak to a team or an organization, I say, find your struggle moment. So what is that? A struggle moment for me is simple. It's the moment where I said, I never want to feel like this ever again. Whether it's something that happened in your family. And for me, it's simple. It's 5 numbers. I'll share them real quick. It's 1, 70, 50, and 1. This is my struggle moment. It's deeper than my why. This is what drives me every single day. There was one person who was misled and misinformed to hate black people. And what he did was he walked into my church and he fired over 70 bullets. And while people were holding hands and praying in my church, over 50 of those entered bodies. And this man took 9 lives. And one of them she happened to be the coolest lady in the world, and she was my mother. And so now when somebody asks me, what's your why? I don't give them a why. I give them my struggle moment. And that's what drives me every single day. It drives me when I'm on the road and I miss my 3-year-old son. I miss my wife and I'm taking care of my little brother. It drives me to keep spreading this mission and this message of unity. Because I don't have a ton of time, I want to share one thing and one story that I wish everybody would understand when it comes to this message of unity. Right? I'll go in and they'll say, Chris, man, we know that this is what you do, right? This is your career, your profession, your mission, but how can I help? And I've heard this so much over the last 6 months, 8 months, based on all the things that have gone on and the media coverage. And when people ask me, I think it's simple. I think it's simple. I think every single person in here can teach. You can teach your spouse. You can teach your kids, your loved ones. Teach them like Dr. King when he said you don't judge somebody by the color of their skin, rather by the content of their character. I think it's just that simple. Teach. What are we teaching? We all have the opportunity to teach. I'll give you a story about this teaching, right? I was speaking at a diversity conference in Michigan. Diversity conference. Now check this out. It was a diversity conference and everybody was white. So I said, they're trying to set me up in here, right? Everybody was white. I said, man, okay, they got me. But what I do is I usually open up for questions because I want to, back and forth dialogue. That's when I think, changes are made. I remember I finished up and a guy didn't ask me a question. He was, I wouldn't say older than him. He's probably mid to late 50s. And he looked at me, he said, Chris, I don't have a question, but I have to tell you this. He said, I used to be racist like the man that murdered your mom. That's what he said to me. I used to be racist like the man that murdered your mother is what he said. And so I asked him, I wanted to get to the root of it. I said, how did that happen? I want to know the backstory. He told me, well, you know what, Chris, the way I grew up, my father was that way. He told me, he said, my uncles were that way. He said, I had an older cousin who was the star of our football team. And he was definitely that way. He said, so I grew up in Chris and that's who I was. I thought it was who I needed to be. I thought it was who I wanted to be. And I heard that information and I wasn't, surprised by that. I know some people have been taught the wrong thing for generations, so that wasn't surprising to me. What was surprising, though, is that he said he used to be racist. I said, well, what changed? And he looked at me, he said, Chris, I've got a granddaughter now and she's not white. I said, okay, it makes sense, right? Somebody with the same blood as you has a different skin color, so now you think a little bit differently. He looked at me, he said, no, Chris, I used to hate my daughter for it. He said, I told her, how could she embarrass me that way? Right? Embarrass her mom that way is what he said. I said, okay, well, you said you used to be racist, right? That means you're not anymore. I said, well, what changed? He said, Chris, when I held this little girl for the first time, I broke down crying because I never knew I could love somebody as much as I love this little one. And he looked at me, a grown man, crying his eyes out, and he said, Chris, it pains me to think that people are going to think things about her and say things about her that I would have said and thought to people that look just like her. And I kept thinking on my flight back home after that diversity conference that I guarantee there's a lot of people that have been taught the wrong thing. But we all have the opportunity right now to teach the right thing, to teach love, to teach character, right? And bring people together in every single the chance that we have. I always say with the sports teams, it's not a time to be on the sidelines right now. You got to get in the game. And spreading unity is how we do it. Now, there's one more story I'm going to tell about teaching. And this lady, I'll remember her forever. I was playing minor league baseball. So now I'm working in minor league baseball. A big announcement that's going to come out. I'll give it to you guys today before anybody else gets it, but don't tweet it, okay? We're gonna be a Rays affiliate. So we just got that information today. Yankees, we're no longer Yankees, but we're going to be a Rays affiliate going forward. And so I'm on the other side now. But before I played baseball. Right, I got drafted by the Cubs. I played minor league baseball, and obviously, you guys know the difference between minors and majors. That you're not making any money when you're playing in the minors, right? And so I was playing, and my agent told me he had a place for me to stay, and it's going to be free. And I immediately said, "Sign me up." Right, both of my parents had passed away. I'm taking care of my brother and sister who are in high school, baby on the way. I said, "Anything that's free is my friend." Okay, so sign me up. And I started staying at this place called St. Paul's Retirement Community. South Bend, Indiana. And I'm staying there, and everybody was over 74 years old. And they would ask me all these questions about the jeans that I'm wearing, the music that I'm listening to. I'm like, there's no way you guys want to go shopping with me, right? I'm saying this to them. They said, you know what? Let me ask you guys some questions. You guys talked about the wisdom that you have, right? Sharing that with the young people. I wanted to know about their lives. So I started asking them questions. And there was this one interview I did with this lady named Esther. 85 years young. She told me to call her Grandma E. Now, Esther was a short white lady. She was about this tall, couldn't have been above 5 foot. And she had white hair too, right? It wasn't even gray. It was just all white. And that was Esther. She told me to call her Grandma E. And I'm talking with Grandma E and back and forth, and she stops me. 85 years young, pulls out her cell phone. And she shows me a picture of 2 little girls. And she says to me that they're twins. Now, guys, I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I looked at that picture, and there was one white girl. I said, "My E, ain't no way they twins." Now, I'm not stupid. That's what I told her, right? And she said, "Chris, let me tell you the story." She was setting me up. She said, "Let me tell you the story, Chris. Grandson was supposed to have twins. One little girl passed away at birth. We adopted this little black baby girl, raised her up. 8 years old now, and this is what they look like. They're twins." I said, "That's awesome." We kept going to the interview. She stops me again. "Chris, let me tell you what they call themselves," she said. I said, "What do they call themselves, Grandma E?" She said, "Chocolate and vanilla ice cream." And I told her, I said, "Grandma E, where did they get that, right? That's cute, but that's weird. Like, are they licking themselves or something? I'm trying to figure out why chocolate and vanilla, right?" I tried to figure it out. And she said, "Chris, actually, I taught them that." I said, "Well, Grandma E, why would you teach them to call themselves chocolate and vanilla? You know, I speak to some schools and they're going to get made fun of because of you." She said, "No, Chris, that's not why I taught them that." I said, "Well, tell me why you taught them that, Grandma E." "I taught them that because I wanted them to know, although they're different on the outside," she said, "on the inside where it counts, they're just as sweet." And immediately when Grandma E told me that, I knew I would never forget it. Because I wish my mother's killer would have had a grandma like Grandma E. Wish my mother's killer would have had a boss that would teach like Grandma E. Right? A coworker or a teacher that would teach him like Grandma E. Teach him that I didn't choose to be this color. I didn't choose my first language. Neither did he, neither did any of us in this room today. And so that's my mission for you all. I got a mission of ending racism. Now that's going to be hard. I'm going to be honest with you. It's tough. But you guys in this room can help me along the way by teaching people, loving people, regardless of where they're from or what they look like. Now, there's one last thing I'm going to share with you all. It's a quote from Jackie Robinson. Now, Jackie Robinson is one of my heroes, but the reason why I share this quote is not just because Jackie Robinson said it, but I use this in every single talk because it's that important to me. June 17, 2015, my mom was shot 6 times while she was praying. She was murdered. In that same room, in the same day, another human being, a hero of mine, his name is Tywanza Sanders. And Tywanza was 26 years old at the time, I believe, and Tywanza's life had been taken that day as well. But the reason why I love this quote from Jackie Robinson and I love Tywanza is because when Tywanza was there, he'd actually been shot in real life. He's still living after being shot, and he actually looks at the killer who had been misinformed to hate people that look like me. He looks at the killer and he says to him, we mean you no harm. Right? You don't have to do this. And the man that didn't have a Grandma E or a Grandpa E in his life, he looked at Tywanza, he said some words, and he said, yeah, I do, and pulled the trigger. The reason why I say Tywanza's a hero is because not even 20 yards away from him, he had his mom hiding under a table. And I remember speaking with his mom, who's still living to this day, and I keep thinking in my head, there's no way she'd probably be still alive if it hadn't been for Tywanza basically standing up and giving himself away. And Tywanza posted this quote from Jackie Robinson the same exact day he was murdered. The same day. The quote from Jackie Robinson is, one life is not important except in the impact it has on other lives. Again, one life is not important except in the impact it has on other lives. So hopefully you guys can go out there and teach like Grandma E. Keep working with Wynwood Farms, who's an amazing organization. If you guys do that and help me in this mission of unity, you'll make a huge impact in my life. Thank you guys so much. And I kept it short too, by the way. We're only 2 minutes over. Just want to put that out there. Just want to make sure I said that. If you guys have any questions real quick, I'll answer them.
In the interest of time, let's go ahead and say the pledge, and then anybody can ask a question. So perfect. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Anybody got any questions, you can go ahead and forward those to him right now, or